Hello, good evening.
Hey everyone. Good evening. Uh, Hello everyone. Welcome to E-SCAPES. Nope, said it wrong. We'll edit this out anyway. Three, two. Hey, welcome to E-SCAPES. This is a segment we're calling Learning to Escape. And this is mainly going to be things that you don't find in the book. And yes, we are going to do another book, but with all the time we have on our hands, it might be in 2030 or 2035. So we're just going to ask each other questions. You can kind of get to know the people behind E-SCAPES and the people in the crew and what things have of course been like for them as they've joined forces with us, transitioning to electric, but also a little bit about the owners and what made us decide to transition. Still sounds like a funny word, but yeah, so it's kind of, just to answer any questions that you probably never even asked. But Jen, I'd like to
Yes,
give you the chance to ask away any questions and I'll ask some to you too. So shoot.
awesome. Awesome. Well, how are you doing this evening, first of all?
Absolutely wonderful.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, no, but in all seriousness, looking back at the book that was published on Kindle on Amazon, what is something that was not in the book that you look back that you kind of wish we did include?
Oh my gosh. There's lots of stuff. I mean, there's different things that when I go back through, that I would change to, about, well, of course, things that we've developed since then, like the box truck, things like that. But, a lot just kind of the history of what got us to that point. It's not like I started out in landscaping. Well, I take that back. When I was like 13, 14, I was in landscaping, but my career, so I thought, was to be a rock star. And
That's right.
that changed into recording rock stars or doing live sound for rock stars. I got a little jealous. I drooled a bit, but I loved it. I loved it. I got to meet some really cool people, and I got to meet some people that were really not cool. We'll put it in a word. Keep it kid friendly.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. That's awesome. That's awesome. And the same thing. I mean, in terms of like linear progression, I mean, I don't think either one of us necessarily had the foresight necessarily to see that we're here today. And
As I said before, if I would have known I was going to be running electric lawn care, I probably would have kicked my own ass back in 2016, 2017. Because I mean, all about gas and batteries. I mean, yeah, I had some rechargeable AA batteries that I would use for little things here and there, and that was kind of cool. But, I've had them burn up on me. I've had some that, just didn't last. And I never dreamed the technology would get to what it is now. But then we'll get into this later and probably other videos about how freaking amazing the technology has gotten now. But I never dreamed we'd have, what we're doing. And
that's
especially,
very
in the music business. And I know, you weren't in landscaping too. You were in the dairy industry for a little while.
yeah. So I was a lactation consultant for 20 years. And I guess you would consider that to be dairy, yeah. Um, yeah, that probably is absolutely the strangest that it's ever been worded for me. Yes, you take the cake on that. But that's
You
okay.
never called a dairy farmer?
No, no, never a dairy farmer. No, it's all right. It's all good.
Mm.
Um,
Well,
I
hey,
it
I
was
never thought
funny.
I'd be the manager of 5 spine clinics with no medical background, but it happened.
Yeah. So, are you going to give us a little bit more information? Or are you just going to let that drop and then walk away?
I can't tell you. I'd have to. No, it was a random time And it was when I was trying to figure out exactly what I was going to do, um, leaving the music business because I no longer wanted to travel because I had a daughter that was born. And I said, there's no way I want to travel any further away from her than, you know, right outside the house. I want to be back every night. And so I was looking for different things. And my mom had a friend that worked at a spine clinic and asked me if I was interested in, just getting a job. It was during, the winter and, well, it was fall. And I knew, when I was thinking about landscape stuff that, I couldn't really do that. Outside festivals weren't really going on. So the music business stuff was down. So it's like, yeah, I'll try it. And it's just to be like a reception person. And my first day, when I met this person who was the manager, had hired me. And my first day coming in, the doctor walked in, looked at me like, who the heck are you? And I knew right off the bat with my big grin that it wasn't getting well received. And he walked to the back, and then I hear this muffled yelling, and then next thing you know, she comes out the door and she's like, leave, Mike, leave. Doctor's horrible. He doesn't care about you or anyone else. As she's now getting escorted out the doctor's office. Well, I'm just sitting there like, okay, first of all, I don't know her. I don't know her background. I don't know what just happened back there, but I'm still there, had the job, kind of like, well, let's see what happens. And surrounded by nurses that are all still wondering, what is this guy doing here? Because after they've asked me, so, where'd you go to school? What's your background in medical? I'm like, went to a college for, sound, no background except for I was in an accident and I did have all these surgeries done to me, but it really wasn't the same. And then the doctor comes out and he's like, can you come back here for a second? I was like, yeah. And he asked me, he's like, so what's your medical background? I was like, well, I was in the hospital. That wasn't very well received, but we did get along well, after talking a little bit. And he said, well, I just fired her for hiring you. Okay. It's like,
Yeah.
she didn't ask any permission. She just hired you without asking me. And that's not how things work here. It's like, but I'll keep you on, see how you do. But, just don't go into a room with anybody and just, as people come in, you check them in and then just hand them over to the nurses. Yes, sir, you got it. And few hours go by, things start lightening up. A few days go by, things really start lightening up. And I think people saw that I wasn't there to take anyone's job. I wasn't there trying to act like I knew anything beyond what I did know, and wasn't trying to step on any toes. And started making, I can't really call friends, but just got along well with the nurses once they saw I wasn't there to be a bully or take their jobs or anything like that. And then next thing you know, he makes me a supervisor, and then before you know it, I become manager, and then I become manager of all 5 of his spine clinics. And I mean, I was still pretty blown away. Like, why on earth did God put me on this path? This is strange. But I'm not going to mention any names of the company and stuff. But I did see some very crooked things going on. But not just that, I had the nurses, the billing people, the patients all talking to me saying, there's a lot of things going on here that are wrong. And long story short, I became a whistleblower with a lawyer to help them just to gather some stuff for, Medicaid, Medicare, things like that. Mainly just to help some of these patients. And some patients had passed. Other patients, just did not need surgeries, did not need the medications they were on. There's a lot of things that were wrong. And I was the one that I had no problem being that person because, for one, of course, I had a conscience, but not that the others didn't. The others did, but, they do anything, say anything to anybody, they'll never work in the medical field again. And I honestly didn't care to work in the medical field anymore after that,
Yeah.
because I saw just really how crooked a lot of things are and how money is one of the biggest factors in if you get better or not. Um, there are some amazing doctors, as you know. You had a surgery that was a miracle surgery. I, as well, had a surgery back when I was in a car wreck that, said I wouldn't walk again. And then a doctor, and, a miracle from God, but a doctor that really cared did a surgery that, first in America to have, and it fixed me. So, I mean, of course, I believe that, there was a lot of people that needed the help, but there was a lot of people that didn't. There was a lot of people that needed different help, or they needed a different opinion, one that maybe didn't require surgery, but because surgery would get paid for and someone would make a lot of money for that surgery, it got approved, it got done, and it did damage. And so that's about as far as we probably need to get into that one. But it was a short-lived, year of my life, and the end result was, the company did go out. I'm not sure, what really happened to the doctor. The lawyer came back and said, because they had a whole group of other lawyers that were going into, the Medicare fraud and all this other stuff. And they said, well, the cases are in the millions and not in the billions. That was it.
That's crazy.
They're not going to take it. Yep. So then I, moved on to bigger and better things. But
There you go.
you know, there were a lot of people that did get helped in this situation by not getting help, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that didn't need the help, or they needed the help, but they needed to find a different way of getting that help. And
Yeah,
I don't know, everything's got a purpose, I guess.
absolutely. That's interesting. It reminds me of when I was a lactation consultant for the first time in the hospital in Orange Park, Florida. And it was like surreal, just walking on the floor and being able to be the one in charge. But also the burden of the care being solely on you, too, and needing to coordinate with all the different people that are in part of the puzzle, because oftentimes that's what's missed, is that coordination of care doesn't happen. So, it's important that all of that collaborates together and that things be able to move forward in an amicable way.
Yeah, very true. Now we've hit the health part of it. So. Didn't know we'd go into that so quick, but you never
Yeah,
know.
there you go.
Well, you mentioned Florida, so I guess we can start with that. So you were from Florida originally,
Mm-hmm.
right? What part?
Yes, born and raised in Winter Park outside of Orlando. So it's kind of like little nestled, I guess it would be southeast Orlando,
Which is a
would be Winter
weird
Park.
fact that you lived in Winter Park and I went to school in Winter Park for a little bit, lived in Lakeland, but yet we, of course, had no idea who each other was for many, many
Right.
years down the road here in Georgia. And I was actually born in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma
Huge
City,
school
right?
thing. Yes, that's where I was born. I wasn't living there. I lived in all the small towns. Southern Baptist preacher's boy, which means
Mm,
I was an absolute angel. Did
absolutely.
nothing wrong. Did not live up to that reputation.
Never,
My
never,
nose is
not
not
once.
growing right now. No, I lived up to the reputation. I had to. You're already going to get blamed for it. Why not? I was a bad one. But then got into that car wreck when I was 15 and got a little taste of death and brought back very quickly, and the old body cast traction. I would love to say I matured a lot, but then I'd be lying. I did mentally mature a lot. I realized how precious life was. I did take that for granted still again, later in life because I was still young. But which is weird. I mean, you think because talking to kids, everything by the time you're 15, 16, 17.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
But it did make me appreciate things a lot more. It did make me think twice on a lot
Hmm.
of things in the future that I probably wouldn't have lived through if that didn't happen. I didn't take some of the risks that I probably would have been as careless as I probably would have if I didn't have that. And I don't mean that in a way that everyone should experience something like that to appreciate life. But my God, if you do, especially when you're back, old fart like I am now, looking back and like, my God, I lived through so many things that I can't believe I made it through. I was very lucky. But I try to imagine if I didn't go through that first thing, what other choices I could have made that, I mean, my goodness. Yeah, we definitely don't know what we're doing until we're way into I have to say 30. So sorry, all you 20-year-olds. I don't know. I was supposed to, I think it was Rogan was saying that around 25 or so is when you're finally, a lot of things are maturing where you can really have a lot of stuff, more figured out. But I don't know. Everybody's different.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'll talk to some people that, as young as can be and just really seem like they've got it together. And then some that are, older than I am and still don't have it figured out. But hey, it's what makes the world go round, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it interesting at least.
Yeah. Now, I talked about me being a preacher's kid and,
Hmm.
how, of course, lived up to it. I did my parents right. They were so proud. But you were a preacher's kid too, right?
Yeah, it was not like you're a preacher's kid. And what I mean by
Oh,
that
oh, like
is
you weren't bad. So
no, no,
just,
no, no. Well, what I mean was like the sole preacher of the city or what have you. It was Orlando Bible Church. It was a small church. And so, it was a different way of living. I don't know how to describe it other than that. It's like everybody was in everybody's business. You know what I mean? But I guess that's how a lot of that stuff is. But
yeah. Well, or everybody knows your business because, yours, I guess, wasn't a small town. Mine being a small town, everybody knew your business or your older brother's business. As soon as they saw me, they're like, yes, you're going to be just like him. Well, thanks.
you're like, thanks,
No,
appreciate
I wouldn't go back and change a bit of it for anything. It was awesome.
it. That's good. Well, we could sit here and talk on that for quite some time, but um,
Well, let's go to a next step. So you were a kid. I was a
mhm.
kid. What'd you do as a kid? Did you ever pick
Oh,
up any jobs as a kid? Like I did, some lawn care. That's why I came back to lawn care when I was trying to figure out what to do after the music business, after my medical career,
mm,
um, after owning a restaurant, um, all sorts of stuff. I mean, what? Let's start with you. What did you do? What was your first job?
mm. Babysitting in the neighborhood. I was always the neighborhood babysitter. It was always like a running joke that I was going to have the most kids the fastest. No, and I worked at Chick-fil-A. I was a vegetarian when I worked at Chick-fil-A. That's right. I did not have to work on Sunday. I know. I didn't
Did
eat
not work on
the chicken.
Sunday and did not eat chicken.
I know. Isn't that
I
crazy?
couldn't trust you.
I don't
I
know
wouldn't be able to
how.
trust you.
Yeah, I know. But it was a good job. I enjoyed it. Target. I worked at Target, and but I spent way too much money there, so I had to reevaluate that.
This brings me
Publix.
on to something else. At Publix, I see. I worked at Publix too, especially being in Florida, Lakeland.
Hmm.
But we were talking about something the other day and
Okay.
about the service industry and
Mm,
how I think if everyone had a job, even if it was just for a little while, a few days even, of being in the service industry, working off of tips, realizing that you're mainly only getting paid for the smile on your face and the way you're treating people, and seeing
hmm.
how horrible people still like a mission to treat you bad just so they don't have to tip or just because it makes them feel superior or better. it's humbling. You
Hmm.
realize that some people really suck. Some people are
Yeah.
amazing, some magical, but some people really suck. And
Hmm.
being in the service industry, you really see that. And it doesn't mean that it's going to make you go hating the world, or, it shouldn't be like that, but it should open your eyes to, hey, those people haven't been where I've been, and it makes you appreciate other people. And it's not saying
Hmm.
that it's something low or something bad or less than or anything like that. But I think that everyone should humble themselves to serve. Just like, if you're a believer and, you're serving your creator, your maker, God, I mean, what's the difference? You need to be humble. You need to learn to serve. And I think it makes you understand that you treat people decent. And of course, there's you know, the treat as you're being treated, but then there's the treat as you want to be treated, which is, of course, I think the way you're supposed to live. But
I agree.
I really think that if everyone was required to have a job in some kind of service industry, I think they
Hmm.
would treat people better. There wouldn't be
Absolutely.
such snobby, crappy people out there who just suspect everything's got to be perfect. Now, some people, they have been in that. So I'm not saying this works for everybody, because my gosh, I've met some of the worst who've been servers all their lives, So, people are people. But I don't know. I just know it changed my way of thinking a lot, from go out there and, waiting tables, things like that, and even, lawn care and stuff. You of course have your limits of how much you'll put up with, because there still is a matter of respect that you should demand to get. You know, you shouldn't let yourself be disrespected to certain points. Sometimes you just have to, because sometimes you're, especially when you're out providing for your children, and you might go through more things than you would if you were just young, single, like just taking care of yourself. So I do, get that and been there where, you take a little bit more than you would have. But I don't know. I just, God, like when we were talking to that waitress the other day and someone left her $1, and she said, other people sometimes, leave a quarter or 50 cents. It's just, why leave anything if you're going to do
People.
something like
Hmm.
that? Absolutely. It's nice to get into the position. And, it's one of the things I like about owning my own business is when some of the customers can really suck, you can say, hey, you're just not doing it for me anymore. I got to break up. I've done that. I mean, I kept it in the most respectful, nice way, and just said, I'm sorry things aren't working out. And I think we need to see other people, just not each other. And, cut it there. You don't have to start yelling and being like, oh, F you, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't have to get to that. Sarcasm. That's the way to. I mean, say kill them with kindness, but, there's got to be a better saying. Startle them with
I don't know. I
sarcasm.
always say kill them with kindness. But I mean, oh,
Soak them in sarcasm.
there you go. You can keep going with that. Yeah. But no, I mean, I would agree with you that I think everybody should have, ooh, just a serving job for a weekend, just one weekend, and see how much that they change their tune on Monday, you know?
Make it a rule that if you're nasty to your server for no reason, once you walk out, the cops nab you, and then you have to switch places. And you're this
Yes.
into something. Hey, that brings me into politics, because I was just, my mind went into, ooh, let's get the president to get people to arrest him. No, sorry. Um, Now you were in politics for a little while.
Hmm.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I originally wanted to be a press secretary. And so my original major was political science and international relations. And I did not pass international relations because I could not name every country in the world. But I had like a 99% in that class, and I couldn't pass the class. So that's my claim to
I couldn't even get
college
close.
failure.
I couldn't get close with the countries. I had a hard enough time. A lot of it was on purpose, but I had this principle. And if you're out there watching this right now, I still got some anger to you. But he would give me SWATs every day until I'd recite the 50 states. The teacher would send me it got to a point where I was just like, I'm doing this on purpose. And I came to school and I had like 4 layers of underwear and shorts under my pants.
Oh my goodness.
In there. And he puts his finger, because I mean, you know, Oklahoma growing up, I mean, SWATs were definitely a thing. Corporal punishment, I guess you'd call it. And I got them a lot. And I mean, most of my teachers were coaches too, and golfers, and they had a heck of a good swing.
Oh my
But,
goodness.
and again, I mean, yes, I asked for some of it. Not literally asked for it, but in my actions. So, see, getting wiser in my old age. But, but anyway, yeah, that was a moment in time. And then my dad found out, and he went to the school and made some changes. But it took forever to get them to believe me that that's really what was happening. And things got a little smoother after that. Not too much smoother, but the wreck was at 15. I was in a car accident that we went off the road. I wasn't driving; I was a passenger, and it was crazy. We were going out to this haunted house, and it was me and 3 girls. Yeah. Who were coming back from the haunted house, and we're in a Mustang. It's when the Mustang 5.0s, big as the 80s. Hit a speed bump. This is what I don't really remember because, I mean, unconscious for, well, not really unconscious, but mentally unconscious, kind of like coma, for weeks. And we'd went off, this according to a guy that was out there on the farm that watched us, we went off a bridge over a ravine, and the car twisted and did like 3, not somersaults, but just flips sideways. And it said, the guy said it looked like an angel or something was pulling us out one by one and setting us down. Well, that angel might not have cared for me too much because he set me down in a barbed wire fence filled with poison ivy, pulled us out. And unfortunately, one girl did pass, and the other one girl did stay in the car, and she fell into the floorboard. And then the other one, was out next to me as well. And it flew, over that ravine and then hit a telephone pole. The telephone pole came down and smashed the car. Yeah, I mean, we were all crazy messed up. Like I said, traction, shattered pelvis, I mean, broke leg in half, everything. Again, I mean, it made me mature up real quick because going through, learning to walk again, crutches, all that stuff. And then I was walking with this funny limp, but I was like, I'm good. I'm good. My, parents could tell there was something, and it would hurt, for me to walk. It's like it wasn't really getting better. And then finally, my mom was talking to my grandpa, like, we've got to find him a second opinion because the doctor's saying, oh, he's fine. He's fine. But you could see it. It looked like my bone was sticking out. And then finally, we go and we see the sports doctor, and he wasn't taking any patients, but because I guess my grandpa, being who he was, amazing man, farmer, and he had helped him, and they saw me, and then he saw my leg and was like, okay, yeah, you're fine if you want to stay in a wheelchair. You're going to be back into a wheelchair now that you're learning to walk, but you're not going to be able to stay walking for very long. And he got another doctor from, I believe it was Germany, to fly in, and they put a rod inside the bone marrow that went down. And I mean, I lost it when they said they were going to break my leg again. Like I was going to have to go through that whole thing again. I'm thinking the traction, I'm thinking the body cast, all that. And so I'm
Mhm.
just like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Tell my parents, I'm good. Tell the doctor. But they finally convinced me, like, you got to do this. And so I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's do it. And my guy, I mean, it fixed me right up. I mean, not immediately, but like nothing now. I've never had problems since. That was when I was 15, now 47. So, but again, I mean, I was really going down a crazy path of what I was going to turn into. Like, I probably needed military or military school. And I was kind of a dream of like, I would like to get into the Air Force like my other grandpa. But then again, the accident and all that stuff, I couldn't do that. But it still did what it needed to do, which is kind of what the service would have done for me. Made me realize, hey, quit being an idiot. Go value life because it can easily be taken away from you. And I mean, did great for my brother. Hi, Daryl. You're awesome. Love you. Army, Navy, and Marines. But what about
That's
you?
awesome.
Any medical stuff? Loaded.
Yes. So, kind of the same situation though. Sorry, it's loud right now, but
Having a party.
the same. Well, no, not really. But I was told that I was never going to walk again, and I was told that by Wellstar, Northside, Emory, the hospital conglomerations, and I was basically stubborn and kept going after other second opinions and third opinions and so on and so on until I found Dr. McDonald, and he did the surgery that helped me walk again. So that was really cool. But I definitely had to relearn to walk all over again, and that was really frustrating. And it's humbling, to say the least. And it's one of those things where I don't know. I was trying to explain it to somebody the other day that had a cane, and she was like, "That's exactly what I was trying to say." And it's just like this look of pity that you just don't want that, where you're just like, "No, no, 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 no." Like I've worked for where I'm at. Like I don't want any, like that. Um, so yeah, there's that medical story.
Strange feeling, isn't it? Like when you're thinking with your mind, you're like, I can move that leg. It's nothing. It's easy, but nothing will do it. But then you can
Mm-hmm.
get underwater. And I remember I lay in the bathtub and I could move my legs just fine. Like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But then get out of water, get into gravity, and
Yeah.
thing would move. So weirdest feeling. And it's hard to explain. I mean, I kind of just did, but still it's hard to explain and understand unless you've been
Mm-hmm.
through it. When you try your hardest to move one of your limbs and no matter what you do, that thing won't move. It's crazy. And that's one of the reasons I love working outside and doing something so active. Just like my grandparents did. They were always active. And I mean, it kept them seeming, young. And I don't know, I just always feel better. I mean, winter comes around, some of the years before we were still staying busy throughout the whole season. I mean, I can see why sometimes some people can get pretty miserable when they're just not being active, not doing anything. It does a lot to your mind too. And that's why,
Right.
I love, you know, not, just, running sports, stuff like that, but any kind of, wrestling around, whatever.
Mhm.
Definitely see the appeal, like martial arts and stuff, not just to be able to go out and whoop someone's butt, but the fun of sparring with
Mhm.
somebody or grappling. It's, I don't know, I encourage it for everyone, especially people with anger issues. You know, get out there and get yourself submitted, get your butt kicked, and then see how tough you are, and
Mhm.
or how mad you are and upset. There's the humbling again.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
it's a great feeling. Great feeling. So now we've hit on the medical. we've hit on some of the job stuff. So, what did you do? All right, so you were in politics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now lactating consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, After that,
Oh, goodness. Okay, so special education. I was in special education for several years, working with those
learning or
that were in
teaching,
special needs. I'm sorry?
learning or teaching.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I was the one learning. She was.
Yeah, it's all good. But no, I really enjoyed that. It just got to be, a lot. The school that I was at was very physical. And so, it was just a lot on the physical side of it. But,
Like
it's a
kids
great,
attacking you with pencils. I think that's one of the
mhm,
stories I remember you telling me.
yes,
Like seriously
yes.
trying to stab you,
Hmm.
like
Yeah, it was
sneaking up
scary.
behind you. And then,
Hmm.
if I remember right, the security there was not good. Like no one
Mm-mm.
would show up, and
Mm-mm.
God forbid you lay a hand on one of the kids, then you're sued.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, it's tough, and I got a lot of respect for people in the fields because
Hmm.
in all the fields like that, with kids with trauma, um, kids, in some of the wards and things like that, where
Hmm.
it's just so much rage in
Hmm.
the mind because of they're different. Some because they get picked on, some because they know they're going to get picked on, and some just because why am I different? That
Hmm.
kind of anger and rage,
Hmm.
and it's hard to understand it, but even harder to be someone I'm sure in that field to help and take care and keep the safety of others and the safety of them in that situation. I mean, it's amazing that people are like, "Hey, I'll be that person. I'll do it."
Hmm.
It's really cool. I mean, it kind of goes the same with getting policing and all sorts of stuff like that. The ones that do it
Hmm.
for the right reasons, not because you're
Absolutely.
getting bullied and you want to go be a bully. That's different.
That's the wrong way.
Right. Right. That's cool. That's cool.
Hmm.
Question for me?
So you grew up in Oklahoma. You lived in Florida. You've lived in Georgia. What is the where where is home to you, or where has home always been for you?
Georgia. I mean, Oklahoma, of course, as a kid, that was my whole childhood. Moved to Central Florida, after I recovered from the accident. And it was cool because it was a new start. You know, um,
Hmm.
there I was about 17 and learned to walk again for the second time. And my parents, God bless my parents, I love y'all. At the time, I thought it was nothing. Like, hey, you can leave me here in Florida and move up to Georgia. That's nothing. You'll be fine. Now, after having a kid, I couldn't imagine. But again, they had a child whose life pretty much was taken away from them. God gave them the chance, or gave their kid the chance to still live through it. And they knew that I was going to do whatever the heck I wanted to do. But I didn't realize that at the time of why they were saying yes. But they knew that, I was getting this little bitty settlement because we didn't sue Ford, for the airbag coming out. Because that's supposed to be what caused the accident, was hit this pothole and an airbag came out, and then driver, couldn't see. And so she hit the gas rather than the brake. And that's why we went off the bridge and the accident. But again, I mean, there's no recollection of everything. And so, there wasn't a big lawsuit and everything. And of course, my hospital bills were in the millions, but I got a $15,000 settlement. And so my parents were like, all right, they co signed for an apartment with me there because I was under 18. But, I was finishing high school and they were like, look, you need money, come up to Georgia. Because my dad was, changing from, he was minister of music and associate pastor, Parkview Baptist there in Lakeland, and then moving up here to Georgia. And they're like, we're going up there. And I just thought Georgia was going to be like Oklahoma. I was like, oh, I don't want to go back. I'll stay here in Florida, going to the beach. This is great. New friends that never knew I was in an accident. They think I'm completely normal. Can surf, learn all because I skateboarded all as a kid, so now I'm surfing, learning something new. It's like this is awesome. And so they didn't want to go burst in that. So again, love you, mom and dad. Thank you so much. Then I had my $15,000, and they co-signed on the apartment. We got all that set. They move off. I go and buy a Harley Davidson Sportster with that money, and work at Publix as a bag boy. So I'm a bag boy at Publix riding a Harley. But it was awesome. Best looking ride any bag boy had there. And I need to say I didn't stay at that job very long. I got offered a job at Subway where I would go for lunch all the time. And so I was a Subway sandwich artist.
Ooh, la la.
Beautiful Harley Davidson. And my buddy, at the time, he was more of like a mentor, but his name is Charles Gibbs. Charles, yeah, they're freaking amazing, dude. But he's such a cool cat. He played drums like no one I've ever heard in my life. And I, started playing music early. I was in a band called Desire back in Oklahoma with my buddy Sean Jones. Love you, man. Ed Taylor, Brett Sams. And we rocked. And I played, when I was there in Florida, I didn't really have, many people to jam with, but this guy Charles would get with me there, and we had a little studio there at the church, and he would play drums for any of the songs that I had. And I mean, it was magical. And he played in a bunch of other bands and stuff for the longest time, when he was younger. So at this point, he was quite a bit older than me. And I actually worked for him doing some lawn care stuff too there in Florida. And he had a Harley. And he, was the reason I got the Harley. And not blaming you, dude. Not blaming you. Nothing bad. It was a wonderful, wonderful idea. And it was a wonderful bike. And I've had motorcycles ever since. So, I mean, it was a very smart decision. Mom and dad are probably still like, no. But it was because I would go out with him and we would go to bars. And I know that sounds weird. You're like, what? Kid. Because, I mean, I've already gave out. I wasn't 21. But we would go to bars and we wouldn't drink. I wouldn't be drinking because there's no way he would let me get on that bike, drink. Now, if I wanted to drink, they probably would have served me. But it was more, of course, a lot of this I'm going back and looking at now. Of course, I drank, but it was back at my apartments, or with people for parties and stuff. It wasn't around him. His whole reason, and I, of course, didn't know this until way years and years after even meeting him or being around him. But I think that he was taking me to these places to show me what the world's like, what people are like, what kind of idiots are out there, and what kind of people really that got their crap together that can be around the idiots and still find things in common, still like the same things, love great motorcycles, love great music, love the atmosphere, but not have to go and be a drunken fool and go get on a motorcycle and kill yourself or others. And I mean, again, I had no idea I was learning this stuff until, years down the road. But it was such a cool experience. And, I thank him in my mind all the time. I did write him once, just to tell him how amazing he was. But, there's a lot of things of cool, of course, that I guess you could say wish I would have done different and listened to him more. But that's not the way life was supposed to turn out for me. Because again, no regrets, wouldn't go back and change anything. Because what if that changes your future. The whole Back to the Future Marty McFly stuff. I wouldn't change it. I'll embrace the lessons that I learned from it. But my gosh, now I've done some foolish things, but I've seen some people do much, much more foolish. Is that the right way of saying it?
I guess so. More foolish,
More
more
foolish.
foolish, more
And
foolish.
I thank him for helping teach me, because later in life I could have made some of the decisions that I saw people make that were wrong back then, and saw some horrible things that happened to people. And so it kind of woke me up earlier, kind of like the wreck did for other things. It's just, I guess, maturing lessons. Would that be what it is?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it was cool. And then I stayed there in Florida until kind of ran out of money. Had to sell the motorcycle, and got a Dodge Daytona that caught on fire.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then a few other vehicles. And finally said, you know what? Let's go see what this Georgia thing's all about. And got up to Georgia. And the first place I went was a place called the Strand on Marietta Square. Now, it's still, of course, in Florida, the music, but again, trying to become rock star, but also learning audio engineering for, a backup. Just in case I'm not the performer, I can work with the performers. But, in recording my own stuff, I was learning to record other people's stuff. So then coming up here to the Strand is where, and that's kind of, a placement too, when I was involved with Full Sail and stuff, talking about Strand on Marietta Square. So I went and saw it, met this guy named Eric Cagle. Awesome dude. And had this studio in the Strand where he was recording bands. And I was amazing setup. But the cool thing was, his bands would come and they'd play. And, it's like all ages and stuff. And they would play. But then after their show, you'd come and be like, hey, we had the whole recording, like professional studio quality. Want to buy it? And, cheap, like $50. And you have a full demo that they could have for their night show, and maybe they only had, 10 or 20 people. So they didn't really make anything at the door. But now they have a demo that they can go shopping everywhere and start packing out places. And in some cases, they also got to hear themselves and be like, ooh, we need to practice. Or we need a new vocalist. We need a new guitarist. Not as good as we thought. But, it went, a whole broad spectrum of that. But I got to see so many different types of bands too. It was so cool. In a lot of, Christian bands, like Christian rock, that, stuff that I didn't even know existed. Incredible. This band Third Day that, ended up getting huge. They ended up signing with the label there, and with Marty and David Vanderpool. And got to see them travel around with them and stuff, doing these shows, and just see them just explode and get huge. And it was so cool. And then we moved the studio from the Strand there on the square to the Pterodactyl Club, which was in Marietta on South Cobb Drive. And still the same kind of thing. We had bands like Prayer Chain, Choir, and then, of course, tons of local bands. And it was awesome. Then the music scene started changing a bit. And, from what these bands were bringing in, it's like $5 cover. They bring, 100, 200, 300 people. You were getting a DJ that was bringing in 2, 3, 4,000 people, $20, $30 a head. So the club owners were like, oh, this is awesome. Me and my ears was like, this is not awesome. This is not what I like. But again, the money was incredible. So they talked me out of, my position there, managing Pterodactyl at that time, to go back to where the Strand was. And at that time, it was called Chaos. And man, they couldn't have thought a better name. The place was Chaos. But it was there on Marietta Square. And just thousands of people running around with pacifiers in their mouths and glow sticks. Yeah, some of it was fun. There's a lot of it's fun. But it was not the scene I was so used to and loved so much. And I stayed around for it, and ran that club and a club next door called Charades. And then they called it the Strand again, and lived up above it, right there on the square. And I mean, it was cool, but it got too crazy, and I was like, all right, the being that created me can't be happy with what I'm doing right now. Can't be proud. And I wasn't proud. And so finally I was like, is this worth it? And we also had a studio down a little 5 Points called the Green Onion. And we were working with Def Jam, Cedric the Entertainer, a bunch of big bands down there. And that, again, was a lot of fun. But I mean, it's also really dangerous because a lot of money changing hands, people getting robbed. I mean, just some crazy stuff. And that's when I finally was like, okay, I've got to change my life around. I've got to do something different. This music business thing is not working out the way I thought it was. I'm not playing music anymore. I'm not recording music anymore. I'm not even listening to music I like anymore. And I'm getting paid, but you're not enjoying what you're doing. So that's when I was like, I'm dipping to Key West. And that's a whole nother story that can be for another interview. But moved to Key West and learned to catch lobsters and bartend, and a whole different life, a whole real reset, which was awesome, which is what I needed. And then after some years, 9/11 happened, and Key West was no longer the place to be. If if you were there, you were pretty much stuck there because planes were grounded, tourism just wasn't a thing, and so me and the person that I was with and married at the time decided we want to have a kid. And of course, that again, not the place to do it, especially during that time. So moved back up to Georgia and ended up, it was a weird, crazy reason, bought a restaurant. And again, go into more details in other times, but trying to sum it up into quicker versions. I bought the restaurant, and I always loved cooking. My mom, love your mom, awesome, awesome cook. And, I took everything that I knew from her and then started reading books, the big chef book and everything, and just learned to become a chef. And we made some amazing things. My cousin, he had worked there and really got, he was kind of the one that got our foot into the place. He loved the place and wanted to go in, on the restaurant. And things I won't go, much more into that, but things didn't work out there with he and I. And later, the rest of his soul, yeah, he passed away. The restaurant, was amazing. We had live jazz, we had dinner theaters. It was really cool. It was a lot of fun, but it was located in an area that at that time there wasn't much going on right in that area. It had real little roads to get in and out, and so there's something big going on around town. Weren't very busy. There was no Uber or Grubhub or any of that stuff. We did do some of our own delivery, just for some fine dining stuff, but mainly like Sunday brunches, things like that. And it was really cool, but it cost a lot to run a restaurant, and the rent was very expensive. But we hosted all the like local organizations, Kiwanis Club, the Gideons, Rotary Club, all that stuff, and did catering for a ton of weddings. And it's all the stuff that I never dreamed I'd be doing. But life hands you that. You kind of either figure out how to do it or run like hell. And we decided to figure out how to do it. And we won all sorts of awards. I'm not trying to toot any horns, but we really embraced it and did it right. But they were talking about how the town was going to grow like crazy, and they were going to build all these condominiums and all the condos on top, and then like stores and stuff on the bottom. And it all sounded amazing, but it was going to take a few years to build, and they're going to close the roads. So what do we do during all that time? And there's no way that we could survive. And finally things worked out to where, we found a way to get out of it without it really, devastating everybody. But, so we went ahead and took it, and thank God we did, because if we would have stayed, we would have been like the other two and maybe three restaurants that got that place after us, and all went bankrupt because you couldn't get to the restaurant. I mean, they were closing roads. I mean, it would have been really, really tough. But then now, it is everything that they talked about in the places, doing great and the whole town's booming. But, people are like, man, what if you still had that place? It's like, I wouldn't, because if we did, we would have been bankrupt just like the others, Everything's got its time.
Mhm.
But, and that again is why, you got to go with the flow of life. You can't fight it. There's reasons behind change. And, again, from that, I guess it was getting into the medical stuff, but then also getting back into music. And this is where I got into the concert stuff. Some more studio stuff, but I was working with Warner Brothers mainly, doing a lot of their CD signings, CD releases, festivals, going out and set up the stage and sound and lighting for all of that, which was amazing. It was wonderful. But it would keep me gone for a long time, and I couldn't do that with a daughter that came into the world. And once I looked in that little girl's eyes, I was like, I'm not leaving you. More stuff I'll go into in another time, but that's why I didn't stick to that. But I had a company that's called Atlanta Production Resource, and we would go out and do these huge festivals, do big concerts. I mean, it was amazing. But people always ask, like, well, why don't you still do that? Why don't you love to still do it? I mean, you've got to either be in it all the way, be union, something like that, and go and travel and be gone forever. Or just do little small town gigs, which means sitting in a bar till 3, 4 in the morning, which I did as some of them, Wild West Bar and Grill and Holly Springs. And as fun as it may be to go to one of them, when you sit there and work at one over and over every night, and you got, you're married, you got a kid at home, it's just not that fun. And I knew, I was like, you're thinking like, wow, is this my career? Is what my career's become? And thank God it wasn't. It was a
Mhm.
fun time. I had a good experience. But when I finally decided, okay, I'm going back to the roots, going back to what I started doing when I was, 14, 13, 14, going around door to door, mowing lawns to make money for whatever, spending money to go blow on something or a new guitar or, something. But that was, we knew, hey, you need that money, got to go get it because mom and dad's not going to give it to you. I mean, whether they had it or not, we had to earn what we wanted, didn't just get a handout. And I'm very thankful for that because I see some of the kids that just get everything handed to them, and it doesn't last forever. It's not a way to live. You've got to work for what you get. Then you'll appreciate it more. So again, we started with this, I called it dirt cheap lawn care, something catchy. And that app Nextdoor came out. I was like, that sounds cool. It's like, able to talk to your neighbors without actually talking to them, be able to advertise without really advertising, not have to pay for it. And it was awesome. We just exploded. And I mean, COVID hit, some years later, and we were a necessary company. And not saying that's right or wrong, but thank God we were able to be benefited, I guess, in that way of being something that someone deemed necessary, that we stayed so busy, we were able to still make it. And I mean, that's where, again, I was like very thankful, but realizing that what I'm doing is important because I mean, these people, no matter how miserable they were, from whatever life was throwing, not being able to be around people. I mean, lived through it, COVID,
Mhm.
and just to see these people be so happy about something was nice.
Mhm.
And, but that kind of is what led me into more things, with the electric, because where we would make them happy, they'd also be unhappy because we're so darn loud. We're so darn stinky,
Mhm.
but mainly loud. And they're sitting there, trying to work on the phone or school, something like that. But no, it is really cool. But I've been yapping a lot. So how about you for a minute?
Yeah, no, it's all good. I've enjoyed listening to you and learning from you.
Well, thanks.
So it's interesting. It's interesting to hear the different linear pathways that we've taken throughout our lifetime. Interesting.
Yeah. Again, you never know what life will bring and what kind of stuff, is ahead. But I guess it's the reason why you don't give up hope,
Hmm.
because I mean, there's a lot of times that I was like, come on, God, what is this? Why am I doing this? But everything has its reason. I had this company, room service, that I'd thought up and thought it was going to be, huge. I was going to be a millionaire. I just knew it because it was this idea kind of from the restaurant of where we would deliver food from other restaurants. And wow, what a cool idea. We'd just go and get from different places and stuff. And then we'd also, be like a courier kind of. We would do all sorts of, services for people. And so it was called room service, more than just a meal. I thought it was the coolest thing. And of course, this is way before any, again, Grubhubs or any of that stuff was around, because this was still back 2002. And the guy who was helping, he did all of the, like set up our website and all the coding and everything for it. And, I didn't know anything about that stuff really. I mean, I knew stuff around audio board, I knew stuff for Pro Tools, things like that. But when it came to coding, forget about it. And we had it all ready to launch, the site beautiful. And then he had Crohn's disease and he had a medication. He just had twins that he brought into this world. And they're beautiful, beautiful family and beautiful guy. But he ended up taking his life. I think it was the medication, I still believe, that he got switched on and slit his wrist, and that was the end of it. And
That was dark.
that's, yeah, but I mean, again, that's just where, all this stuff, and then you're just like, you want to get mad at something, want to get mad at somebody. Can't get mad at him. He's gone. Can't get mad at his wife, his kids. I mean, no. So then your next thing is get mad at God. What does that do? Does nothing and definitely doesn't help. And so I had to get real with God and be like, okay, what am I supposed to be learning out of this? And later in life, I go back and I see how much I learned out of it. I didn't lose anything. And a lot of skills, techniques, whatever that I developed in doing that, I use today. And a lot of it was also not necessarily cold calling, but being able to go out and talk to customers and people like I did back then. And that was kind of a practice to get into it and realize that, hey, they're humans. They're just like you and I. Just talk to them. You don't have to sell them anything. And with the business that we're doing right now, there's nothing we have to sell. It sells itself. I mean, the only thing we got to deal with is some of the people that are out there. Well, I'd say deal with it. Don't have to deal with it really. We just kind of laugh at it. But the people that are out there saying, oh, this doesn't work. There's no way you can make that work. Well, we prove that it does work.
Mm.
And it works really freaking well. So I'm very happy with what we're doing, where we're at. And I couldn't ask for a better career, for a better thing to be doing, whether it's for the rest of my life or not. I would, again, what I would love to do with this business is not necessarily be out there cutting the lawns, with this new electric stuff. I love that. But I love having the guys do it. See these guys do it. See how happy they are. See how happy these clients and customers are. But teach other people to do it. I mean, you not coming from any kind of, landscaping background other than you'd have someone come cut your lawn. But you came across it and you saw what we're doing. And again,
Mm-hmm.
I thought everyone was doing it. I was like, I can't be the only one doing electric. I can't be the only one that's using solar to charge it. I mean, I guess I'm a little silly, but I don't know. I figured, come on, and that's how many years ago now. But
Yeah.
it's true. It's I think it's because so many people think that it can't work, and so many people are so quick to say that well, let them, because they'll see
Mm-hmm.
for themselves that it does work, and it works
Mm-hmm.
quite well, and it's very efficient, and it's not about politics. It's not about whether gas is good or bad. It's about
Mm-hmm.
what works better for what you're doing, for the application. And technology is always improving. Therefore, hey, it's working better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Mr. Jabberjaws.
No, it's absolutely. I think it's great. I'm learning a lot.
Hmm. Well, happy to teach.
Yes, happy to oblige.
Well, any final thoughts?
So I think we need to put the teaser out there in terms of a second book. What do you think?
Yeah. Um, I mean, some of the things that we're working on now that wasn't in the first book is this box truck. Everything before was trailers. Now we just bought a big box truck, and we're doing a 48-volt system as opposed to, when we first started, it was 12-volt. And then I switched to 24-volt for the larger trailers. And then now the box truck, we're going 48-volt, which means we're getting serious. But it's,
Let's get serious.
let's get serious. Wonder Pets. I gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get
You
serious.
got it.
This is serious. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm excited. And over this weekend, we're going to film a lot of the, I about call it a trailer, the box truck getting built. And I'm excited to show and share on that and hopefully start
That's
building
awesome.
these for other people.
Yay.
But yeah, that's pretty much the future is going to be building these things for other people or teaching people how to build them.
Mm-hmm. I think that's awesome. And kind of like the Quiet Georgia, that campaign of, really trying to make sure that this community is quieter and safer. And I think that's important to note too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because again, I mean, people are all working from home, schooling from home, or just having, or podcasting from home,
There you go.
or whatever it is. Because imagine if we're sitting here right now and you just heard in the background.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be pleasant.
Kind of like the first time that we went to go record. Do you remember that when your neighbor was using the leaf blower? That
Yeah.
was perfect timing. Impeccable.
Yes. Yes. Quite loud. Well, cool. That was creepy. That was my chair. Here, I gotta show this chair that talks randomly. It just tells you it's there. It's
I am here.
the man. It's the man telling you it's listening. Creepy.
And on that note,
All right. Well, I enjoyed it. Thanks for the chat, and
you.
we'll have more to come.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.